So with all the crazy stuff that went down during the 5th anniversary live stream for the sea inside of Langrisser, I didn't really see much of it. There was only like a few things that I accidentally looked at when people were showing it off. And if you guys don't know yet, I'm still trying to catch up on some of the updates that already happened in CN. So if you guys do want to talk about it, just put a spoiler tag somewhere so that if people are interested, they can take a look at what you put. It also helps me out and for other people who wants to see it for themselves. But back to the point, us global players are still behind. We still got a few months to prepare for all of that. But this time, we'll be getting a crossover update. The Shining Force collab. We will be getting 3 characters, 2 of which you have to pull for and the other being free. Despite them being a crossover characters, they're pretty balanced for the most part. However, one of them is an actual PvP character who can hit stupidly hard, while the others are just kinda whatever. Like they're nothing to really be crazy about. So let me explain. First, let's start off with Sonia. She is a mix of an offensive attacker or a full-on tank, depending on the build. She is part of the Glory, Princess, and Time faction. For her talent, if there's allies within 2 blocks, she takes less damage. If not, then she deals more damage. When she enters battle, she can prevent the enemies from attacking first and has a revive effect. Not bad. For the most part, it's pretty normal stuff for tanks, some of them at least. Getting that damage increase is the only weird part about this since she wants to be practically alone. As a tank though, it's nothing new from what they usually get, but someone like Neo Zerida, her 3C allows her to attack first. And normally anyone else who can also attack first, like Jintoki with max talent stacks, if both characters have first attack priority, they pretty much cancel that effect and they just attack at the same time. But with Sonia, it isn't saying that she gets to attack first, but rather she prevents that. For Bonds, she just needs her class upgrade, which will always be the case for all crossover characters. Her 1C is an assist skill that dispels 2 debuffs and heals 30% of her HP and gets reinforcement for 2 turns. But if she has less than 50% HP, then the healing effect is doubled. As a tank, this is one of the best things that they can have. Some way to heal, like with Lightbringer, but Lightbringer is more of a pseudo healer, so she doesn't really have an actual way of doing direct healing. But another prime example of this is Izera, which is a tank that also has a heal skill. Her 2C has a passive that guards nearby allies and is immune to displacement effects. It's also a guard skill that adds 20% of her attack to her defense and gets a command effect where if allies within 2 blocks battles enemies outside of this command range, take less damage which lasts for 3 turns. More defensive prowess is pretty nice, but this essentially makes her kinda good at handling ranged attackers, which might even affect AoEs as well. Her 3C has a first part that reaches 7 blocks long and is used on one enemy to apply duel, where they can only target her with no more attacks and skills. It cannot be the spell that lasts for 2 turns, but in regular content, it reduces the enemy damage. After using it, her attack and defense increases for 2 turns and gets Blur, where if she battles enemies with duel, she has a 100% chance of not being crit. That lasts for 2 turns, then the skill changes into Electric Sword. This is the second part of her 3C, which is an AoE that reaches 3 blocks and should have a 2 block span. It deals magic damage and has a 50% chance to apply 1 debuff, but if she hits an enemy who has duel, then she gets to move 2 blocks to do whatever. Her act again only triggers once per turn and buffs on her do not lose their turn duration. When her lure effect ends, then Electric Sword changes back into duel. So her 3C basically locks down one opponent into only attacking her. The rest of the stuff that it offers is not bad, but I don't get why her AoE is doing magic damage when she's physical. Like, it isn't really doing anything crazy, so I don't understand why that's the case. That's really my only real gripe about her. Maybe they thought it might have been a little bit too overpowered, but I don't really see that. But Sonia as a whole, she's a very self-sufficient tank. She's sort of like Albedo in a sense, but unlike her, Sonia is going to be good at tanking ranged attacks, especially against magic since she has good soldiers to complement that. But at the same time, she might not, because the thing that Albedo has over Sonia is that Albedo has a ton of damage resist in her kit. She's really good at handling physical attackers, but range attack is where her main weakness is. So to make that up, she has self-sufficient stuff like healing herself and sort of buffing herself up, using her guard skill and locking down a specific enemy into only targeting her with the 3C. You can also use her as an attacker if you really want to. She has the skills to do just that. You have to make sure that no allies are within 2 blocks of her if you want to get the most damage out of her. I say building her as a tank is her strongest suit since you can use so many other attackers to get the job much done better. And making her a hybrid offensive tank is out of the question because you either build her one way or the other. Sonia in regular content can perform well, especially for newer players if you really need a tank. However, there is the newcomers banner that have other tanks with better utilities, like carrying a faction buff for the team. You can really skip her if you care about making progress on your account, so that you can get better tanks and better attackers. But she can still get the job done, even if you decide to make her an attacker. For PvP though, although she is very self-sufficient, which is the main reason why she's gonna be even good, she's also very selfish. She's really only buffering herself up while only providing one small things to help her teammates better survive, which isn't a lot anyways. And she also doesn't have a lot of damage resist compared to other tanks, so she's easily gonna be getting one-shotted. She's a fairly balanced character, so summoning for her is totally up to you and will be able to do her job. But there are other characters that perform so much more better. Next one on the list is Kirika. She's actually more of a PvP character than anything. She's part of the Princess, Euless, and Time faction. Her talent increases her attack, and after taking action, if she has not attacked, whatever remaining mobility that she has left, it gets added to increase her attack skill range. But at 5 or 6 stars, the conversion gets doubled. That lasts for 2 turns and cannot be dispelled. She can stack up to a max of 8 times, and when stacking, the turn duration set itself back to max. If you have her fully set up, she can actually reach half of the map with one of her skills. You're definitely going to want her to be at 5 stars if you really want her to get going as fast as possible, because then she doubles whatever remaining mobility that she has left. So let's say that if she has 2 remaining mobility and has not attacked and ends her turn, rather than stacking twice, it stacks 4 times. She has a 1C that teleports her somewhere within 2 blocks. Then afterwards, if she teleports to any allies within 2 blocks around her, she herself and her team gets their damage increased for 1 turn. Very great for when she has to set up. Her 2C has a passive that increases the skill span by 1 when she has 3 or more of her talent stacks. This is an AoE that reaches 2 blocks long with a 3 block span that inflicts arrow rain that pretty much shares the same effect as Auto Kratos debuff, which lasts for 2 turns. So if the enemy has not moved, then they take the most amount of fixed damage, but for every block that they do move, they will continue to take less fixed damage. Then her 3C. It has a passive where she has a 30% chance to take 20% less damage when being targeted by a ranged attack. This skill is a line AoE that reaches 3 blocks long, that does the most damage to the closest enemies it hits first, then deals less to enemies past them. And if the enemy defense is higher than their magic defense, then this attack does magic damage. Enemies hit by this gets their armor disabled, but if it's a regular enemy, then it reduces their defense and lowers their mobility for 2 turns. The passive is probably one of the worst part about this, but do you guys see that multiplier? 0.6, which is the highest that we have ever seen on an AoE. Also being able to deal magic damage if the enemy defense is higher than their magic defense, which means this makes it one of the strongest AoEs with the highest chance of one-shotting. And if you use her 1C while she is setting up to get that damage boost, it'll increase her odds. So someone like Grenchiel will, no matter what, get one-shotted. Her other 2C is a good pressure tool and that's about it. But some things you do gotta consider is that her factions are a bit lacking with the current characters running around, and making sure that you constantly have her set up to ensure that she has that long range. Though setting up her talent stacks may not be too much of an issue considering how the meta has changed, involving a lot more tanks being involved. So a majority of players will have a slower type of playstyle. So with the way how it is right now, she can fit in. Just make sure that you do find some ways to buff her up, and she can decently survive some hits too, because she has access to the Shrine Maiden. It's pretty crazy that she even has that. So her survivability isn't too terrible. In regular content, it's going to be hard to maintain her talent stacks since you're always going to be attacking. However, I do see her being good against bosses since she can attack from a safe distance, especially against Hugin and Mugen in Ancient Beckoning. But then again, you're always going to be attacking, then on the next turn after that, you're going to be doing nothing to keep her talent buffs on her 24/7, and is someone that you definitely want at 5 to 6 stars to perform much more quicker. If you enjoy PvP, then Kirika will be able to put some work for you. But for newer players, and those who really enjoys regular content more, you can easily skip her. She's okay, but using her will be really troubling because the problem that lies with her is maintaining her long range. And to remind you guys again, it's only her attack skill that has that increased range. But hey, if you guys want to pull for the banner characters cause you find them interesting or whatever the reason it may be, then go for it. Enjoy the game in your own way, so don't let anyone stop you. Last one is Excella, the free character from the crossover event. She's part of the Empire, Strategy, and Time faction. Her talent increases her talent when battling against enemies who have higher HP than her. After taking action, she has a chance to get Accumulate, which increases her crit rate by 100% when she attacks, and if she uses a skill to deal damage, then the cooldown of that skill is reduced by 2. As an attacker, this is stupid good. As long as you're lucky, that is. But if you do manage to pull that off, she's gonna be hitting really hard, as well as being able to spam. Gonna be really amazing to constantly keep on slapping tough enemies. Her 1C is an assist skill that gives her attack and a buff that has a 50% chance of not consuming Accumulate for 4 turns. I'm really surprised that it even lasts that long. Something like this, you would expect it to last for 2 turns. This allows her to be offensively self-sufficient while maintaining her talent. Again, as long as you're lucky, so that she can keep on pushing out her damage potential. So yeah, some good stuff there. Her 2C is an AoE that reaches 2 blocks that attacks enemies within 3 blocks. It becomes a towel effect that teleports enemies within range. The towel lasts for 2 turns, and if the enemy is within 2 blocks of it, then they get teleported somewhere around it. Most of the time you may not even run the skill at all, since the only good thing that it's used for is to lock down enemies. The enemies can easily get away from this and has an incredibly long cooldown, so you're better off running another skill to make the most of her damage. Finally, her 3C has a passive where if she triggers her talent while having Accumulate, she heals 30% of her HP before and after battle. It's a single target which has a 3 block range that deals magic damage, and melee soldiers will also attack with her. If the enemy is near her gravity field, then they take fixed damage when ending their turn. Alright, so at least her passive is good, as long as you're lucky. The RNG is gonna be so annoying, you can already tell. But what I don't like is that it basically tells you to bring her AoE if you want more additional damage, as long as they are near it to make matters worse. And to make it sound even more terrible, that AoE has a ridiculous long cooldown, so you aren't going to be even making full use of it all the time unless you run clock. The skill doing magic damage is the same situation as Sonia 3C, which is really strange. I don't even know why they did that, since Excella is also a physical attacker. So what I'm really hoping for is that it's something like a conversion. Like what I'm trying to say is that it uses her attack value to convert that into her int to deal magic damage. Because if that isn't the case, it really severely limits her DPS. Because that passive on it is way too valuable to give up on. And if she isn't doing a lot of damage with the 3C, it's like, why even bother bringing it? Newer players joining in and whoever needs another attacker, Excella is not a bad idea to put on your team to clear some stuff until you get someone better. As long as you're lucky, she'll always be doing tons of damage, since she should always be critting, as well as buffing up her attack, and has a better chance of having her talent last a bit longer. So she'll fit anywhere on your team, since that's all she really needs as an attacker. For the exclusive that's coming out, a helmet for Beck, where his contract buff can't be dispelled, which is the revive he's able to provide. And Nether Flame Erosion cooldown is reduced for every enemy hit up to 3. Nether Flame Erosion is his 3C, by the way. Thank you whoever it was that said it in that one other video. It's pretty good to keep the revive effect on whoever has it, but it's not too terrible overall, so he's able to be kinda spammy. But you're probably going to be mainly getting this to make sure that revive can't be dispelled. The second one is for my boy Theon. After he gets his spinner back, his damage gets reduced, and at the end of his turn, a spinner will spawn at a random enemy if they are within 10 blocks of him. But in PvP, that duration affects the whole entire map, but can only trigger every 2 turns. That's pretty funny. I would say only get this if you PvP with Theon. because this allows them to put a little bit more damage as well as put a little bit more pressure on their positions. Honestly, it's pretty amazing how that affects the entire map in PvP, but if you guys know Theon, he's never really doing any serious damage. He mainly relies on his fixed damage, but he's just a character who's really good at being annoying and is really amazing at putting tons of pressure. The casting skill that got released in this update is for Sumire. More attack and defense in both Whirlwind Dance and Nirvana can't be dispelled, that lasts an extra turn. Really good since one of them is a revive buff that she gets. The other is for King Red that offers more int, and when Blood Crystal power is triggered, then all of his skill cooldown is reduced by 3 turns, which is alright. You might think it's good, but most of his good AoEs have a 5 turn cooldown, and his Blood Crystal thing is a passive, where I'm pretty sure in order to trigger it, he has to die to trigger his revive, which is risky if he gets double tap. Third is for Mew that gives more int, and the mob that she spawns gets better stats and an extra skill where after taking action, it heals allies within 2 blocks, and as long as it is alive, Mew's skill range is increased by 1. The extra range is nice and all, but it's not very often that she gets to summon it since she needs to kill with the Thxs in order to spawn it. Last one is for Mariel that gives extra attack. When she kills with the Thx, she gets Holy Damnation, which is the skill that she normally gets after using her Thx against a guarded opponent, or Righteous Fury somewhere else. But if it doesn't kill, then it stuns them. Not bad. Her and Sumire are the ones that top it out in this batch. For new banners, the Langrisser 4 or 5 is really the only one that is still considered new, for global at least. It will come around every month like with the 1, 2, 3 banner. So from here on out, I'll stop mentioning it because it will be a regular occurrence that we will always get. However, for new content though, of course, the farmable clap event where you get Excella for free and is able to farm her shards up to 5 stars by just farming points. We got a new building that's just for decoration. This should come out on a later date, like somewhere around 2 or 3 weeks roughly, when the update goes live. There's also Fair Arena, and Dimensional Expedition. So be sure you're in a guild by then to participate and get some rewards. Trust me, it's worth it. Also, a little fun fact here. The new PvP lava map and being able to automatically use our burgers for auto farm was first introduced in this update in CN. Of course, it's no surprise that sometimes global gets stuff a month early or so since the global devs do things a little different. As for the new skins we'll be getting, an Echo of Light for Sonia and Kirika. Really nice designs. They look really incredible. And let's be real, I know some of you guys are gonna be paying almost 3 hundos for it. And I can't even blame you. Then lastly, a Macholato for Blostam. And unfortunately, these are the only skins that are coming out, unless they pull some strings, like with the summer skins. I can't wait for one particular character. It was announced during the 5th anniversary. I'm not gonna show too much because that means I'm spoiling myself. But this was the one that I only saw. And you guys don't know how excited I was for the Angelina summer skin. Cause you guys know at this point that Angelina is my favorite character, as well as Theon. Man, I hope that he gets another skin too. Alright, there we have it. That was about everything, if not most of everything that should be coming in this Shining Force crossover update for Langrisser Global. I'll definitely be pulling on them since they are crossover characters, and usually with how they work is that they may never ever come back. But I really do think the characters are pretty cool to use and mess around with. I'm mainly going to be pulling for Kirika. I think her playstyle is pretty interesting to try out, so I'm very excited to pull for them. And that's really all that I'm really looking forward to. It seems like with every major update, there's really only one thing that I'm really excited for, which is kinda sad to think about. I will be doing a summoning video when the update drops, and hopefully get them out early so that I can also work on their showcase, if I do get them. So wish me luck, and good luck to those who plan on pulling for them. Anyways though, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and let me know down in the comments what your guys' plans are in this update. Also, I do got many other planned videos ideas that I do want to share with you guys. It may take a long while, but hopefully when I do eventually get them out, hopefully you guys like them. So stay tuned if you're interested. But yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.